Good day, folks. This is Greg Judy at Green Pastures Farm. Well, I told you it would rain, and when it did, we'd be very appreciative of it. And I want to thank everybody. Had a lot of people emailing me, and we appreciate your thoughts and prayers, and we certainly been praying for rain, and we got some. That's the best sound I've heard in, I don't know, 3 or 4 months. We just haven't had any rain. And, we were holding on and moving the bulls and the steers across this farm. And the boys, we've got 2 herds, cow herds that they've been moving and dealing with the new calves and such. But, the plants just weren't growing back very quick. I mean, they were growing, but they weren't growing like normal. They'd kind of stalled out on some of these ridges. And so we still have probably close to 2 weeks over here. I'll show you the grass. Oops, I gotta turn the key on. I'll put the window down. It's getting foggy in here. Look at this grass. Now, I'll put the window back up. It's raining in. That grass hasn't been grazed. This farm hadn't been grazed for 2 years, but it was hayed. They took hay off of it for 2 years. And the hay crop last year was taken off the first of, get the date right, the first 2 weeks of August is when they first cut it. And this patch over here, it was cut, and then it rained like this for like 7, 8 days in a row. And they never got it rolled up. So this section of the farm, I would call it 25% maybe. It did not get the hay removed last summer. The first year they did. They baled the whole farm in January. Never seen that before, but they did it. They wanted it to look pretty so they could put houses on it, sell house sites. And this is the farm the developers owned. And they had 17 house sites put on here. And Jan and I are fortunate enough, we came in and bought 13 of them, put them all back together, and making it a cattle farm. I wonder, let me show you this side. It's probably going to get wet over here too. It's coming down, folks. Yeah, it's not quite as bad on this side. Look at that. The bulls are right over that hill. I just moved them, and man, they're all just down there grazing. I beat the storm. It rained last night, started about 5 o'clock, and then it stopped from 7:30 to 8:30. And I just got in the vehicle here, and we're coming up on the weekend. Folks, next week is our grazing school, our advanced grazing school with Ian. It's going to be here next weekend. Well, it actually starts on Thursday through Saturday, so that's going to be so awesome to see Ian and Pam again. And we've got a really nice class signed up, and it's going to be a great 3 days. We did look at the weather forecast for what that is worth. Mid 70s, low mid 50s at night. No rain. So the forecast right now looks pretty good. But if it does rain a little bit, we've got a tent, and we're farmers, most of us, and we can handle a little precip. We tell everybody to bring your rubber boots and a raincoat. Maybe you'll make it rain. But yeah, we had a great day yesterday. Isaac and Ike, they were on the calving herds. They had 9 calves yesterday. That set a record. We'd had 8 several days with 7s and 6s. Putting those bulls in for 60 days and pulling them out, man, tell you what, it really gets the calving going. And something we're definitely going to continue to do. Get the calving done with, But anyway, Joel and I were over here yesterday on this farm, and we had this new pond that we bought. The new farm has a pond right behind me here. And Johnny put a skirt in it. It's actually sits over there by those trees. And Johnny got all 4 skirts put in. He started at 9:30, and he was done and out of here by around 2:30 to 3. He had all 4 of them put in. I mean, the guy's just a master with a skid steer, and he put them all in just wonderful. We've already got 2 of the ponds permanently fenced now, and we've got a little solar charger. It's not little, it's a fairly good size, and it's portable. And we just pick up the ground rod, move it to the next pond, because we don't have power out here in the middle of this farm yet from our perimeter fence. Now, that will come, but we're not there yet. So that little portable charger works really good for powering up our fence. But anyway, this pond over here, the developers, when they brought the surveyors in to get their 10-acre tracts, they actually cut off the back of this pond dam right at the base of it. The shutoff to the pond is on our property. The hydrant and the frost-free tank with a concrete pad is on the neighbor's property. So it does him no good at all because the water comes from our pond. Well, I noticed that hydrant was leaking, and you can see water on top of the ground, and we were busy building fence and trying to get this farm ready for cattle, and I said, well, that's something I've got to address. And anyway, we came over to put that skirt on, and I noticed the pond had went down, 8 or 9 inches in a month, okay? 3 weeks, around 3 weeks. And that's a lot of water on a pond that size. And so I told Joe, I said, that's priority number 1. We've got to dig. You couldn't shut the valve off. I couldn't figure out why. There was a big tube around it. And of course, it was deep. It's 4 foot deep. I took the cap off and put my tool in there. There was nothing down there to twist. So we started digging, Joel and I did. And we dug it looked like you could have buried about 3 people down there when we got done. And finally got down into the valve, and the darn top of it was broke off. Yep, brass valve. There was no way to shut the pond off. And I'm looking at that, and I'm like, oh my goodness. So we went and got a Sawzall. I ran to town and got a valve. I measured the pipe now. I took a tape measure, measured the pipe coming out of the dam where the old valve was hooked on, and it was 2 inches. Okay. I measured it. It was 2 inches, the pipe. So I ran to town, Columbia, which is, 30 minutes, hour round trip. Got my brand new valve and some special glue that can weld under adverse wet conditions. It's $20 for this one bottle of glue, but he said, Greg, it'll be worth it. Boy, listen to that rain. Holy moly. Oh, I gotta turn on the wipers. Look at that. Folks, that's some serious rain. All right, back to my story. So, I come home with the valve. I primered it. I primered the pipe in the pond before, and I had Joe clean it off real good with a rag. And so we're both down in the hole. And Joe had dug that hole deeper. He'd went another foot deeper. Because when I cut the pipe, I knew that water was going to be coming out at a 2-inch flow. We only had about 30 seconds to get the new pipe valve on there to shut the water off. So I opened the valve up, the new one, primed it real good, and then I handed it to Joe. I grabbed my Sawzall and I cut it off, cut the old one off. And I mean, the water was blowing out of there. And I put my glue on the valve, and I put my glue on the pipe really well. I mean, really globbered it on there. I slammed that valve up on the new pipe, the new valve up on the old pipe. Major mistake. The valve that I bought was 2-inch, and the pipe, of all things, we measured the outside diameter, it was 2 inches, but it was 1.5 inches. The pipe was 1.5 inches on the inside. It was not gonna fit. Well, here we had a hole, it looked like a swimming pool with the ocean turned into it. It was filling up as fast as you could see it. We had no valve. We had no way to put the pipe back on because we'd cut it off. And Columbia's an hour away. And we're in a drought. I'm like, that pond's going to be dry by the time I get back. And so I'm freaking out. I run up the side of the bank, and we'd had a brush pile there that had some green, it was hickory. Or no, it was oak. It was a little oak tree. And it had already been cut down. It was about the size of a baseball bat handle. And I had Joel run up the hill and get our little trusty, right here, electric chainsaw, and I buzzed off a piece of that limb, and I had the pipe in my hand, the valve that I'd cut off. I ran that stick, or that tree, up in the pipe, and man, it fit just about perfect. I had about an 8-inch piece of that. So I said, Joel, you got to go for it, buddy. He didn't even hesitate. Joel jumped off in that hole, boots, pants, everything. He just jumped off in it, and it was waist deep, and of course the valve was about 2 feet underwater now. The pond's still filling the hole up, and he reached down underwater and shoved that tree trunk, his little tree trunk about that big around. He shoved it up in that hole, and we had a 1-inch fiberglass rod. And he was able to stick that rod down in the ground behind that tree stump that was in the pipe, and he got enough pressure on it that it stopped. I mean, he couldn't feel any water coming out of that pipe. And I said, Joel, you start bailing that hole out. I'm running back to Columbia because we were about out of time. They were going to close in like 40 minutes. So I jumped in the car. I ran back to Columbia. I got the right valve. I came back, and Joel was grinning. You know, he had that hole as clean as a pin, man. I mean, there wasn't any water in it, hardly at all. And it was just barely seeping around our nice homemade plug. Well, this time we went at it again. So primered it up, glued it, the new valve. He pulled the tree stump out, and I mean, here come the water. This time we slapped it on with the valve open and held it with the valve open and let it run through that valve for maybe, it was almost to the top of our boots. And then we shoved the rod in behind it, the fiberglass rod, so that when we did turn the valve off, all the pressure of that pond water wouldn't blow off our new valve that we just glued on. And sure enough, we shut it off and had that stake behind it, and it held. It held. And it was just a great feeling to see that pipe sealed up nice and tight. And so we put a riser back on it, put some rock around it, put some big posts around it, wired it real good, put a new cap on it. Folks, it's as good as new. And our pond, we don't have to worry about the hydrant back there on the neighbor leaking anymore. We shut it off. We put a cap on it because there's no way to use that pipe. It's right against our property line. There's a high tensile wire, 5 wires, literally 3 foot from the shutoff. There's no room. And you don't want cattle on the back of your dam back there hanging out drinking anyway. So Johnny put in a skirt, and this pond we're talking about, if we put in pressurized pond water, that's where the pump house is going. We're going to bring a boat over here and measure the depth of this pond, but the last owner said it's pretty deep. I think he said it's the deepest of the 3 that we have. So I just want to measure it. I know it's full. It was almost full until we let it leak for a month. But guess what? Man, it is raining cats and dogs. Isn't that a beautiful, 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 beautiful sight? Oh, I love the sound of that thunder. Folks, when you haven't had rain, and then when you do get rain, I tell you what, you're a whole lot more appreciative of it. And yeah, a whole lot more appreciative. I know there's parts of the United States that have been getting tons of rain and they wish it'd stop raining. Boy, be careful what you wish. Be careful what you wish for. So anyway, I'm kind of trapped in here. The bulls are standing behind me. My road going out of here. And they're they're setting, riding out the storm, standing right in the middle of the road. So I'm gonna wait for it to stop raining. They'll go back out to graze here in a minute, and then I'm gonna go catch up with the young men, and we're gonna do some paperwork this afternoon. Y'all have a good one, and we'll see you next time. See a bunch of y'all at the grazing school coming up next week, and then the beginner school is the following week, and there are a few spots open in both of those schools. So anyway, y'all have a good one, and we'll see you next time. And yeah, the rain is awesome.